slip that my college fund went to paying off Dad's affair partner. We were at my graduation party when Aunt Teresa, wine glass in hand, said, "Such a shame about your college fund, but at least that woman stayed quiet." The backyard went silent. Mom dropped her spatula. Dad's face drained of color. I stood there in my cap and gown, holding my community college diploma, finally understanding why my parents had cried poverty when I'd gotten into Northwestern. "What woman?" I asked, though my stomach already knew. Aunt Teresa's eyes widened, realizing her mistake. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Teresa, that's enough." But 17 years of lies were already unraveling. Mom walked inside without a word. The relatives scattered like roaches when lights turn on, leaving me alone with Dad and his guilty face. "Sophia," he started, but I held up my hand. "Just tell me, how much was my college fund?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "$70,000. Your grandparents started it when you were born. $70,000. Gone to silence some woman he'd slept with." I learned the rest from Aunt Teresa later, after Dad retreated inside. The woman, Liana, had been his physical therapist after his back surgery 5 years ago. The affair lasted 8 months. When she got pregnant, she threatened to tell everyone unless he paid. My college fund disappeared in 3 wire transfers. She got an abortion, took the money, and vanished. For 3 years, they let me work doubles at the restaurant, let me stress about loans, let me settle for community college while knowing they'd stolen my future. Every time Mom complained about being broke, every time Dad said we needed to be realistic about college options, they were performing a play where I was the only one who didn't know the script. I confronted Mom that night. She was sitting in the dark kitchen, wine bottle half empty. "You knew?" She laughed bitterly. "I found out last year. Your father promised we'd tell you after graduation. Didn't want to ruin your senior year. So you ruined my entire future instead? We did what we thought was best. You let him use my money to pay off his mistress, and you think that was best?" She had no answer, just poured another glass and said I'd understand when I was married. I moved out the next week, crashing with my friend Danielle, got a second job, started saving obsessively, lost 30 pounds because I was barely eating, putting every dollar toward tuition. My parents tried calling, but what was there to say? Dad sent a check for $500 with a note to help with expenses. $500 when he'd thrown away $70,000. I sent it back torn into pieces. 2 years later, something interesting happened. Liana reached out on social media. She was dying of cancer and wanted to clear her conscience. She told me a different story. There was no pregnancy, no abortion. She'd never threatened anything. Dad had pursued her relentlessly, even after she'd switched jobs to avoid him. The money? He'd sent it unsolicited, begging her not to tell his wife about his harassment. She'd used it for law school, thinking it was the least he owed her for the trauma. She sent me screenshots of his messages, desperate and pathetic, offering more money if she'd just meet him one more time. The man who'd acted like she'd extorted him had actually been stalking her. I showed everything to Mom. She filed for divorce within the week, but the damage was done. The house was mortgaged to the limit, credit cards maxed from maintaining their facade of stability. There was nothing left to split. Dad moved in with his mother, who still believes her son was the victim. Mom lives in a studio apartment, working retail at 63. They destroyed everything to hide his lies. I graduated last spring with my bachelor's degree, 6 years behind schedule but debt-free from working myself to exhaustion. At the ceremony, I saw Dad in the crowd, uninvited but there. He looked older, smaller, defeated. When our eyes met, he mouthed, "I'm sorry." I turned away. Some things can't be forgiven. Liana died 2 months ago. She left me a letter and a check for $30,000, half of what she'd received. The note said, "This was always yours. Use it for graduate school. Don't let him steal any more of your future." I started my master's program this fall at Northwestern, the school I should have attended 6 years ago. My thesis is on financial abuse within families. The dedication will read, "To all the daughters whose fathers spent their dreams on secrets." Dad sent a congratulations card when he heard. I burned it unopened. Some bridges deserve to stay ashes, and some futures have to be built from the ruins of what should have been.